Hello, Cheers to Business listeners. I'm Ashley Smith, Vice President of Wholesale Pharmacy for DocRx and listener of Cheers to Business. And I want to tell you about the great company I work for. DocRx is a family-oriented company dedicated to tailor operational solutions for patient health and compliance programs that increases the quality and efficiency of patient-centered care, and always with the mission of the patient's health first. With over 10 years of experience helping doctors and their patients with diagnostic tests, patient monitoring, medical supplies, compliance, wholesale pharmacy, physician dispensing, billing, and much more. DocRx is your patient and health compliance solution, both under one roof. To find out how DocRx can help you, your hospital, pharmacy, physician's offices, and any PPE you need for your businesses, please visit us at docrx.com. That's docrx.com, docrx.com. Now enjoy the show.
Hey, I'm Karen. I'm a former CPA, entrepreneur, business consultant with big ideas.
Welcome to Cheers to Business.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cheers to Business. I'm Cam Marston. If this voice sounds different than what you're expecting, that's because this is a takeover show. And you're going to listen to me interview Karen Simmons today. She's been behind the mic for years driving this podcast. Today she's behind the mic answering questions that I'm going to pose to her. Karen, thank you and welcome to your show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Well, I've never been asked questions on my own podcast, and I would be nervous. I hope you're a little bit nervous because those nerves bring out some crazy responses. We don't know exactly where this is going to go.
You obviously have not listened to my show.
I have listened to your show. I've been a guest on it, and I think if there are no holds barred, let's get started. What are these people who have been listening to you for years, what would surprise them about you?
Elvis Presley kissed me on the forehead when I was a child.
What else?
I grew up with no air conditioner or heat with my brother and sister. In a skiff going in Mobile Bay with my dad, a fish literally jumped into our boat.
Here we go. These are great stories here.
Yeah. That's off the top of my head.
No kidding. That's without even trying.
I caught my mama's kitchen on fire.
Yeah, you've got these great stories. So flash forward how many years later, you've bought and sold and owned and participated in how many different businesses, from a woman that caught her mama's kitchen on fire to the CEO, CFO of how many different businesses now?
Currently CFO of 6 of which I own 15 companies.
15 companies. All right. Take me from Elvis kissing you on the forehead to participating in 15 different companies. I mean, it's just a remarkable story. What do people need to know about you?
Well, you do what you have to do.
How do you define that?
You don't get greedy, you treat fairly, and you keep after and you're not scared to jump.
Yeah. I think that scared to jump is something that so many people, and I'm raising my hand here metaphorically, deal with because we don't know what's out there. We don't know how far the bottom is. But you seem to do it without hesitation. That can't be the case. You've got to evaluate. You've got to measure. You've got to analyze. You don't just jump.
Sometimes I have, and sometimes, to my detriment. You're not going to have a parachute every time, but I do have deep faith. And so when you listen to whatever is inside of you telling you something, unless they're weird little voices, then that's God trying to tell you the right thing to do. So when my gut gets excited and it looks like a win-win-win, I don't believe in 2 wins. I believe in 3 wins.
All right. Who are the wins? Win number 1?
Me, you, and everybody around us.
I see. Okay. The community, the customer, whoever it may be.
If you find a need and you price it fairly and it's a win-win-win, you have a successful business. I don't care what you're doing.
When did you get interested in it? If I read the bio correctly, accounting got you kind of your start in this. Tell me why that rose to the surface in your world.
I was hungry.
Well, you could have, let's say, become a welder. You could have become a drug dealer. You could have become an actress. You could have become a heating and cooling specialist, since you seem to value heating and cooling without having it as a child.
And toilet paper.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what a toilet paper specialist looks like. Let's not talk about it. But what would, but of all the things you could have launched into, why accounting? Are you a figures person? Do you love a balance sheet?
I love balance, and I love fairness, and it makes sense, and numbers don't lie. And I actually started college off in chemical engineering.
Okay. So
But I started a ledger at 12 with one of my dad's businesses to make sure I got paid for doing the work that I was doing. And so I started a ledger not knowing I had a ledger. It just made sense.
Yeah.
And so chemical engineering kicked my butt. And because none of those letters in those tables are in the actual words they represent, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And so then I started partying, lost my scholarship.
Let's go back. What were you doing for your father that earned you revenue that you had to keep up with?
Dad was a fireman, and on his off days, he had this fiberglass business. We had a big shed out back, and my mom did the gutters at Ciba-Geigy. On the top of the buildings at Ciba-Geigy Chemical Plant. Back when I was a kid, I fiberglassed the hull of a boat. We would sell the mat and the resin. We had big 50-gallon drums and just anything fiberglass. But Dad was gone. People would just stop by to buy fiberglass, or he'd send people by. And usually it was me and my brother and sister at home by ourselves. So I was 12, meeting strangers, going out, laying fiberglass out for them.
Really? So you had a percentage of those sales, and you were tracking that. You were taking the money while your dad was gone and tracking how much of this was your own.
Well, it started off that I negotiated 10%. I want 10% of everything if you want me to do this. And I was kind of a bossy kid even then. And he said, sure. Well, the first one that did, I did the work. He was standing there talking to him. He took the money and put it in his pocket. So afterwards, I said, my 10%. When he didn't hand it over, that's when I started the ledger.
You started the ledger.
And I would take my top. So if he took some, then the next time I would make sure it was always fair. I never took a dime more. But if I worked on the thing, I took my 10%, whether now or, the next deal.
Flash forward to college. You step into college. You go into chemical engineering. Why that? Though it didn't work out, why chemical engineering?
I wanted to make money. And then so once I lost all that, I actually met a guy in a bar.
Yeah.
And now we've been married 34 years, and he said, you're smart, go back to college.
That's part of your story I like a lot. I read that in the commencement speech you sent me. You proposed all these different things to this guy who repeatedly said, sounds good, give it a try. He's been a great fan of yours.
Probably will. I know I will never find a man who loves me as much as that man does.
Yeah.
Or person.
Yeah. So we're back in college. Chemical engineering didn't work out. You started partying. Then you went back to school in accounting.
Undecided.
Totally
undecided. So I said, okay, business, because, watched Dad do small businesses fail or succeed over the years. And I took an accounting 101 class. And I'm sitting there and I went, well, duh, debits, credits, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I was good at it.
Yeah.
And people around me were struggling with it. And I went, God, this is so easy.
Really?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It has to balance bad, good, pretty, ugly, debit, credit, plus, positive, negative.
Yeah.
And so that's just set the tone right there.
I'm the guy that struggles with that. I'm the guy that still has to pull his phone out to calculate a 20% tip at dinner time. I am the guy that looks upon you with mystery and magic of how does she do this stuff? But you see it as so simple. I can create a sales proposal out of thin air.
But I can't do what you do.
That's right.
And that's what I told every client over the years. They come in and they would be embarrassed over the shape of their books.
Yes, that's me.
And I went, but I can't do what you do. I can't roof a house. I can't do those sales proposals. I can't fix people's teeth. I can't fix my own car.
Yeah.
I can't clean my own damn house.
Right.
So it's nothing special. It's just my circle. And everybody's got a God-given talented circle.
Right. I'm going to take a deviation. I want to hear your story, but you said you were good at accounting. You knew you were good at accounting. Something inside of you said, you're good at this and you can do this as far and as long as you want. What else are you good at?
I think I am good at people. I like people. I think that's one reason when Katie and I started doing the podcast is it's turned in that we want to answer all the questions I'd been asked for 25 years as a CPA. And I said, people keep asking the same questions. So we started it was just free business advice while we drink wine.
Yeah.
It was an excuse to drink wine. But now it's turned on me. The stories that I hear, I still want to give listeners what not to do, what to do, just some kind of reference, at least to go check out something else more. Am I the be-all, end-all? No, and I know that. But the people that I have met on this show, and their stories are fascinating, and how people can, you get to a certain point and you go, why am I doing this? And then people can realize why. Or, pivot if you needed to. I'm not scared to change. I'm not scared to jump. And I think that drives people crazy sometimes.
Yeah. So you're good at people. You're good at asking questions. The podcast was part of your expertise, or you're good with people. What do you wish you were good at that you're not good at?
I would like to say that I wish I was good at detail, but I'm okay not being. What CPA is not good at detail, but I was never the stereotypical number 2 pencil suit CPA.
Right.
Never was. Never realized. Never knew why I had so many clients.
Yeah.
I think it's just because I was just so real.
You were candid.
I'm blunt.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can sense that. Yeah. So you were a CPA. Let's go back to the story. You graduated with a degree as a CPA. You got into a firm locally, and you began practicing. And at some point, you said, "No, this isn't for me. I don't like the firm business. I don't like being here. I'd like to do something different."
Well, that took 25 years, though.
Did it really? I
Yeah.
thought it was much more quickly than that.
No. I graduated college in 91. We got pregnant my last quarter of college. So I had to take a bookkeeping job because we were hungry.
Yeah.
We only eat so many romaine noodles, and he worked offshore. The first 15 years we were together, we only saw each other 5 of them.
Really?
He was gone 2 weeks out of 3. So, and he didn't come off the boat. So, see, we were married 3.5 years by the time Katie came along, and she was 12 when because we had made a deal early on that when my career took off, we would swap. And we did it.
Yeah.
So he was able to come off the boats, and then, you can call whoever a breadwinner. That's why it doesn't matter to us.
Right.
So 1996, I was going to church. I was on the vestry at St. Andrew's Episcopal off the Parkway, and Mike Sermon, Frankel, and Pulaski, the firm was at that time. And I called him up because I had passed the CPA.
Yeah.
I didn't pass the CPA till 96. And so, because I tried working on an MBA for a little while, and I went, I'm sick of this. But studied and studied. And when I first took the CPA test, it was 19 hours long over 3 days. And you had to go to Montgomery to do it.
Dang.
And finally passed all the parts on that, and called Mike Sermon up, and I said, "Hey, Mike," which I grew up 5 houses down from him, down on the Parkway. And I said, "Hey, I'm sending out resumes. Can I use my CPA initials even though I haven't worked in that?" He said, "Come interview." And I went, "No." He said, "Come interview." I said, "No." He said, "Why won't you interview at my firm?" I said, "Because I heard you're an asshole."
Is that the what I call candor and you call bluntness coming out in there?
Pretty much.
Yep.
Just see what you get. And he said, "Well, interview with one of my partners." I said, "All right." So I did, and I was there 14 years.
Yeah.
In fact, Frankel left. It was 96 I started. 99 I became an income partner. 2004 I bought in as a shareholder. Frankel had left. So it was Sermon and Pulaski. And I wanted my name on the door. And they said, no, look at all the, like Wilkins Miller, they're not even part of it anymore. We're going to stick with Sermon and Pulaski.
Yeah.
I said, okay, fine. Because somebody had asked me a long time ago, you want the title or you want the money? I'll give you one or the other.
Really?
Yeah. And I said the money.
Yeah.
So I stuck true to that.
Yeah.
And was building my practice. In 2008, Pulaski left, who, I admire both these men, by the way. But Pulaski and I were much better friends divorced than business married.
Yeah.
And so then in 2010, I left.
Yeah.
And Sermon, who was left there, joined Smith, Dukes, and Buckaloo, and I opened up Karen Simmons, and then later changed to KCS CPA Group and built it up to 15 people.
You were an equity partner in this firm for a period of time, but then suddenly you became co-investors in businesses, more so than just an equity partner in a CPA partnership. You wanted your teeth in the game.
No, I was just interested and saw a need. Second business that came along, so I had the accounting firm, and that was 2010. I opened that up. And then 2015, I had a bunch of payrolls, about 123 of them, after the fact and live payrolls. And CPAs can't make any money doing payrolls. I don't care what they say. If they tell you they are, they're lying, because the billing structure just doesn't work. And so I went looking, I could smell Mobile turning.
Yeah.
And you could feel it, that Mobile was turning in the business and downtown. And I don't know, you could just smell that something's fixing to happen good in Mobile. So I wanted to be prepared for that. So I started researching, because I could open up a payroll company. I could open up anything. That doesn't mean it's going to be successful. And so I went looking, and Katie and I were at a conference in D.C., and I saw Payroll Vault. And so that's when we bought the franchise, and I made her co-owner.
Now, I'm going to make a hypothesis here. Somebody with your background of no heating and cooling, it's a hard scrabble background that you came up from. It would seem to me that once you had a predictable income, that you were gaining from being a CPA, and though doing all these payrolls, you would be averse to risk because you know, hey, I've been in this situation of not having, and I don't want that to happen again. So now I've got a predictable income, and I'm going to do what I have to keep this predictable income. But that's not a part of your fabric. You're willing to jump out, even though a tough background, you're willing to jump out and take on risk.
In 2010, I told everybody that I was leaving and opening up my own on July 31. September 9th, my husband went up to Tuscaloosa to get our 19-foot camper, and we had to live in it for 5 months because our house got black mold, and insurance doesn't cover it. I had no paycheck. We had nothing. I had to pay 6 figures to get out of the farm. We cashed in all our retirement to save our house. So at 46 and 50 years old, we started over.
With a child.
And she's grown by now.
She's grown by now.
She's grown by now.
Yeah.
And so this is 2010.
Yeah.
And I employed 4 people. So clients just started coming, and they started coming, and they started coming. And I kept saying that God told me to leave. And the day after, I had given it to God one night, I was just crying. And because I was miserable, and I gave it to God. The next day, I walked into a pulmonary doctor's office in Baldwin County, and there was stuff everywhere. Chairs were thrown. I said, "You really are leaving town." He was going through a divorce. And he said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you going to do with these chairs?" He said, "You want them?" And I said, "How much?" He said, "Well, I paid $200 each for them. Full waiting room, 10 chairs." I said, "I can't pay that." And he said, "I'll give them everything to you. I'll give them all to you for $200.
Yeah.
So the day after I had said, "Tell me what to do," I walk into an office, and I have a full storage unit for $1,500 for a full office, including a refrigerator and a coffee maker.
Yeah.
And a fax machine. And so that was my sign. So that's when I left there. So I had been saying, when the black mold hit, I said, this is just the test and the testimonial. I'm not giving up. And I'm not a good person. I smoke, drink, cuss like a sailor. And I kept saying God doesn't want us dead yet. Turns out there were live wires underneath the house. It was his parents' house, built in 1922. There were so many things that could have killed us. And there was thick black mold in the ductwork. And insurance didn't cover it. I had so many business client friends. I did a lot of free tax returns that year. And, I can remember one time the house is ducked up. I had a ServPro client. And so they came in and was they got rid of it's a process to get rid of black mold that's strewn throughout your house. The whole house had to be gutted. Throw away draperies. It was just awful. And we lived in that 19-foot camper with everything we owned in pods, and our garage became our living room. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying that, God didn't want us dead yet. And then about February, I got a paycheck. And I had not had one since July. I don't know how we made it. And so I get through my first tax season, and I'm at the office by myself, and I'm looking at my financials because I know how to read them. And tears start coming down my eyes, and I'm not boohooing. And I went, how did we do this? How did we make it? And it dawned on me then that I had stopped everything, every luxury, every nicety that we had gotten used to, and stopped everything. But I forgot to stop, subconsciously, I think, the church payment that came out of our checking account to the church once a week. Mm-hmm. So I upped it and said, thank you, and carried on. And ever since then. And now I have businesses. I like to build, make, and grow. That is exciting. I don't care if it's a tomato or a business.
Build, make, and grow.
Oh, absolutely.
So somebody with these challenges, another contradiction to you, somebody with these challenges could easily have little or no faith. These challenges have built a greater and greater faith. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Life's about choices. If my husband says something negative, I choose to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm choosing. Life is my choice.
What did you say? Build, make, and grow?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that means to you.
Everything. You build a child. You make a child. You help them grow so they can stand on their own. I don't have any business that's totally dependent on me. Mm-hmm. It's not. I can help guide. Even the one I'm CFO for, it's the people there. You strengthen them. Find people smarter than you. I'm the most awful detail person. That's why I got to surround myself with people that keep me grounded, because I will squirrel and go, oh my God, look at that. That's shiny. And I have to have people around me that grind me to the ground, keep me accountable, and somebody to do the detail work.
Mm-hmm. What frightens you today? My gut says nothing can frighten this woman after everything she's gone through and what she's seen and the way she leaps and jumps. What scares you?
Non-validation.
What does that mean?
When I sold the firm in 2019, and God told me to get out of that too, I realized, so sold in May 2019, signed the paperwork on a Tuesday. My husband and I got on an airplane to Hawaii on a Wednesday and had to get away. So by the time Christmas comes along, Christmas 2019, I was so unhappy. And I was doing some consulting gigs, and I had people signed up for my online, it's called The Mastery. It's an online educational course to teach people how to be in business. I have that one too. And my granddaughter gave me a compliment in the kitchen. And I went, oh my gosh, that's so sweet of you. She said, yeah, nobody compliments you? And I went, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I miss. That's why I'm not happy. Lisa Peacock, and somebody that was part of Sermon and Pulaski, she was a partner as well. And she told me one time, she said, it's not $1 for you. It's not about the dollar. I said, no. And I have realized in my life that I need validation. Karen, thanks. You did a great job. Oh my God, Karen, you helped me out so much. What would I do without you? I need to do good to hear that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important to you. Mm-hmm. Again, it's a paradox. That background that you have, it seems like you gut it out without needing that type of stuff, but that means a lot to you.
It means a lot.
So what is the podcast doing for you?
If
You've
I
got
can,
125 episodes at least, and I was on the previous episode. You're
Right.
going to have so many more. You've got a loyal following. Are you getting validation from the podcast in a way that, is that the reason you're doing it?
No, it started out that it was just fun. And then I actually had a couple of people stop me. Are you Karen Simmons? I listened to your podcast. And that felt pretty cool. But 4 years ago, I got vulva cancer. And yep, that's the V. The V.
Yeah.
You know, men get it in their groin. What's the difference in a woman? It's just rare. And people don't talk about it. So I said, well, screw that. So I started talking about it. I had 2 people go get checked because they heard my story.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, it comes back. I'm clean now. And if anybody that's had to walk the first time into the Mitchell Cancer Center, that is the most traumatizing doorway that you can ever imagine. So in the conversation with your husband of 30 years at that time.
Yeah.
So again, I chose to be optimistic. Told me on a Saturday, talking with my husband, told my daughter, my brother's sister, and I actually get on my knees and say, thank you, God, for giving me this cancer. I don't know why.
Really?
Really. Monday, they had me at the Mitchell Cancer Center. Wednesday, they had me in surgery, and they got it all. Flared back up 2 years later, did a most uncomfortable procedure, and so far, so clean.
Yeah.
So I thank God.
So you literally got on your knees, said, thank God for this cancer. Thank you, God, for this cancer. I don't know why yet, but thank you.
I did.
Do you have the why yet?
It's just part of life. I think that it taught me, everything happened to me in tax seasons. I had 25 of those little bitches. And I had a miscarriage in tax season. My mother died in a tax season. My grandmother died in a tax season. Everything would always happen in a tax season. And I always said, it's just God's way of telling me nobody gives a about those taxes but me, and to pay attention to life.
Unbelievable. These are the messages you take out of these instances that I think most people would interpret radically differently.
It's a choice.
Yeah. Karen, you've had 125, many guests through the show. Your experiences have taught you some glorious things.
Yeah.
And yet, I suspect you hear your guests saying things, or you hear the people with whom you consult saying things, and you want to slap them in the head and say, listen, if you've seen the world through my eyes, you realize that this thing that you're worrying about isn't really a problem.
No, because it's so important to them. That's not the point. I don't know better than them.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. Because their situation has the million other facets that have affected them. So everything that's happened to me. Who is the woman that was in Officer and a Gentleman? So Deborah Winger's on Barbara, or whatever her name was. That
Walters?
Yeah, Barbara Walters. She was on Barbara Walters. This was years and years and years ago, and I've never forgotten it. I'll forget what I did yesterday, but I've never forgotten this. And Deborah Winger must have gotten into a lot of trouble partying or whatever. And Barbara Walters asked her, she said, do you regret anything you've done? And Deborah Winger looked at her and said, it got me to where I am now, and I'm happy where I am now. And it took all of that to get me to this one particular place. So that's all that's happened to me. That's all that's happened to you. That's all that's happening to everybody. So when they come and tell me things, I told somebody to fire me one time. I said, why do you keep coming here? You won't listen. And the grown man cried in my office.
Yeah.
But he kept trying to do the same thing with the same and got the same results, and they're going to cry about it. I don't have time. You're paying me and not listening. Either you try my way or what I'm advising, or quit paying me to advise you. It's really that simple.
But there's got to be, I want to come back to this because I feel like you've earned the right.
Ain't nobody earned nothing.
Oh.
Nope.
No. You've got life lessons that most people don't.
So does everybody.
But a life lesson is meant to be taught. And you're the one to teach it. You're the vessel through which to teach it. You have a very strong faith. Is there no part of your faith that says, hey, you're doing everything that I've asked you to do except talking about it?
That's a loaded statement.
You're dang right it's loaded. And maybe we should be. Maybe this would help the conversation. But I feel like there's a vessel in you that deserves a stage beyond this. What do you think?
I actually thought about public speaking, and I've done a little bit of it. I enjoy it. I think that people are scared to get me to do that because they don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
There's that. There's the vulnerability of not knowing where the conversation will go, and
you walked into that today.
Your seat of the pants style of delivering content. I go back to my original question. There's nobody that sits down here in this podcast booth or any one of your clients that you wish you could say, listen, you really don't have a problem. Here's a story for you to get. I mean, that's what Andy Andrews does. That's what so many of these people do. Say, let me tell you what the world has looked like to me and help you more grateful with where you are now.
Let me tell you a funny story.
There we go.
Okay. So I am CPA for two psychologists, mother-daughters, and the daughter's complaining about the mother.
This is already funny.
This is a true story.
They're psychologists and they're
she's
not getting
telling
along.
me, right, really, right? Mother-daughter too. I can identify. All right, so she's going on and on about these stupid little things that her mama's doing that's really not important. And I like both of them, and they're both great people. And she's just complaining. I looked at her and said, my dad went to Waffle House and brought home a hooker named Penny. She lived with us for 6 months. Mom didn't like her.
So your
That
point?
is a true story. You ain't got problems. Yeah. Oh, you're going to beat me there. Sorry.
That's hysterical.
That's true. I said F you to my dad for the first time when I was 11.
Yeah.
And another time I told him, I said, go ahead. He brought me home from the bar, told me he was going to go back. I said, to talk to that woman you were with at the bar, don't come back. I told my father never to come back home.
Okay. So you've had challenges, and but you don't feel like you have earned the right, I'm back there, to talk to people about
I'm not
this.
better than anybody else.
But you've seen more.
Who says?
Me.
Nah.
Me.
There's lots of people.
JG out there says it. Me too. Him too. You've seen more. All right. Let's. You're not going to accept that.
Not.
That's fine.
I'm not.
We'll drop
I
it and we'll
can't.
move on. But I'm going to hold you accountable to something like this one of these days. What's next for a woman that's not afraid to jump, that's not afraid to go into the unknown? Do you have a plan, or is it a seat of the pants future for you as well?
I don't know if I call it seat of the pants. I think it's people get mad at me because I don't steps 1 through 6. I'm not good at training people because I'll leave out 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And to me, it's do 1, then test 2, see which way the wind's going to blow because 3 may have become 10. Mm-hmm. And so I like to watch evolvement. Everything evolves in process. They want me to have a plan. What do I need to do next week? What are you doing tomorrow?
Right.
That determines what you do next week. Mm-hmm. And so what's next for me, my husband, well, in July, I created a courier business for one of the companies, Coast Diagnostics, that I'm CFO of. And now there are 33 drivers all over the Southeast, and we employ 35 people. That's in 7 months. I don't have anything to do with that business anymore. My husband does. Mm-hmm. My brother runs our manufacturing company. Katie does everything payroll.
Katie's your daughter.
Mm-hmm. So my husband runs Medco Logistics now, and he has literally threatened me, and that's him calling right now. I'll call you back. He has really threatened me that if I create one more business, he is divorcing me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
After all you've been through, one more element of success for business, and that's the final straw for him. There's some great irony in that.
I'd like to sell flexible benefits. That's an FSA administration. Cindy Surgeon works that one, and she takes care of everything in it, and I love her to death. So I want to make sure she stays employed.
Yeah.
And then Simplicity, I closed that one down. I had an idea for Amazon, and if I'd had the right people around me, it would have been very successful. But I just kind of moved on. And then there's CFO Consulting, the Mastery Network, Paper Vault, and the podcast.
Back to what's next.
I don't know.
Don't know.
No, my eyes are open. My ears are open. And you just hold your arms out and welcome. And then what do you see? What opportunities do you see? What people are around you to make something happen?
Yeah.
That's just fun.
Oh, I think it is fun too. And I think there's a lot of people who don't know how to do that.
I agree, but we all can't know how to do the same thing. That leads us back to our original conversation.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect symmetry as we're back to the original conversation.
And you were doubtful this would work.
I find you fascinating, and the fear is leaving meat on the bone, right? You've got a lot of stories, and anybody who would interview you is taking on a huge burden because you've got so much content, and you're afraid, what do I touch here? Where do I go with this? How do I even pick and choose what to do? And we didn't get into, I want to hear you talk about your faith. I think there's a story there because it comes up so frequently. You've referenced it, but I want to hear a description of it.
I got baptized by myself at 9 years old.
By yourself?
I would catch the bus out to Berean Baptist Church over by Tremere Park, off the Parkway, and I would go to church every Sunday at 9. They let me get on the bus. It was different back then, though. And I went to church, and I got baptized, and nobody else was there but the church.
Just the congregants in the church, no family members or anything?
Nope.
And your faith has been alive since then?
Before then.
Before then. It hadn't ebbed and flowed. A 9-year-old doesn't know a lot, but a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old does.
Oh, it ebbed then when I was partying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ebbed when
Yeah, I don't think any of us have that constant. I don't care if you're a priest or a preacher.
I agree.
If anybody says that, I believe totally all the time and my constant faith will get me through anything, I call bullshit, number one. It's that joke where the flood's coming and, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
All right, well, recognize the boat. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So since 9, it's been active and it continues to be active.
On and off.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest, and God knows, so I can't hide it.
Yeah. That's interesting. And would you say it's been critical to the person that you are today, or is it something you rely on only in times of stress?
Oh, no. I forget to say thank you when life is good.
Yeah.
But one time I got Citizen of the Year by Southwest Mobile County Chamber of Commerce, and I was freaking out like the day of. And I mean, I don't freak. I never freak out, but I was an emotional wreck. And my daughter came up and she gave me a verbal slap across the face. She said, "You are happy when things are bad and you freak when things are good."
Yeah.
I can fix the bad. Is the good really happening?
Yeah. Do you not allow yourself to celebrate?
Oh, yeah, I do. I used to buy myself a piece of jewelry when I got my bonus when I was back at the big firm.
Yeah.
I need a reward. Everybody needs a reward.
Here, let's finish with a reward.
Okay.
It is somebody, cheers to you.
Oh, thank you.
It is somebody like you who has the gumption and the guts and the ability to jump when the future is unclear, who motivates me to continue to do what I do and to realize that there's so much growth that can happen in me. You've been very helpful in our short friendship. You've been very helpful to me. Thank you so much. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you, and cheers to paying it forward. That is everything.
I love it. Folks, this is Cam Marston. We're wrapping up Cheers to Business. This was the Takeover podcast episode. I'm honored and pleased to be here. She'll have another episode for you next week.
Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.